Sharp, high-impact opening that drops viewers straight into the tension surrounding a witness whose answers keep shifting while commissioners challenge every inconsistency. A clear roadmap of what the episode unpacks. The spikes in intensity, the moments where patience snaps, and the revealing exchange where commissioners question whether Brown Mogotsi respects the seriousness of sworn testimony. Why does a witness begin to shift in tone the moment commissioners ask for precise dates? The room tightens as Brown Mogotsi tries to recall details he previously stated with confidence. Every answer lands with the weight of earlier contradictions echoing behind it. Commissioners glance at each other, tracking how each mismatch forms part of a larger pattern. A single question about timing suddenly becomes a mirror reflecting the growing uncertainty around his testimony. The silence after his pauses grows longer each time. It's striking how quickly the mood in a hearing changes when a witness repeats an answer that doesn't match the record. One commissioner leans forward, another drops their pen, and the entire atmosphere sharpens. Mogotsi's voice wavers as he insists he is telling the truth, yet the transcript shows earlier statements that conflict in subtle but undeniable ways. What began as a routine clarification spirals into a tense exchange. The pressure mounts with every rephrased question, making each sentence heavier than the last. Picture the commission chamber at that exact moment, papers rustling, microphones picking up breaths, and Mogotsi shifting in his seat as the panel closes in on a contradiction. The fluorescent lighting feels almost accusatory as commissioners reread his prior responses aloud. Each repetition chips away at the room's composure. Mogotsi nods at the wrong times, hesitates at others, and the discomfort becomes almost physical. The atmosphere transforms from administrative to electric in seconds, charged by layers of unanswered implications. Anyone who has watched a long inquiry knows the moment when a witness realizes the panel isn't buying their explanation. Mogotsi reaches that moment when a commissioner asks, calmly but firmly, why his version keeps shifting. He grips the table, eyes darting between screens displaying earlier transcripts. The tone of the room softens just briefly before tightening again as another inconsistency is highlighted. His attempt at a more confident explanation only deepens the tension. The panel listens without blinking. There's something fascinating about how one small inconsistency can unravel an entire testimony. Mogotsi tries to clarify an earlier point, but his wording creates yet another conflict with previous remarks. Commissioners exchange the kind of look that says everything without saying a word. The dialogue shifts from clarification to confrontation. His voice rises slightly as he tries to defend the new version of events, but the panel remains grounded, focused, and persistent. Each new answer becomes a step deeper into scrutiny. He said one thing on Monday and another on Thursday, two versions, one witness. The commissioners bring these statements side by side, letting the contrast speak for itself. Mogotsi attempts to merge the conflicting details into a single narrative, but the seams show immediately. His explanation stretches longer than the question itself, and with every additional sentence the room feels more strained. The panel's patience thins as the contradictions continue stacking in plain sight, impossible to ignore. It began with a seemingly harmless detail, a time, a location, a sequence he thought wouldn't matter. But one commissioner revisits it, calmly laying out why this tiny discrepancy is actually the key to several larger contradictions. Mogotsi shifts as if the chair suddenly became uncomfortable. The narrative he offered earlier starts to fade under the weight of this new focus. The commissioner's tone never rises, yet the silence between questions grows more dramatic, stretching across the room like tension made visible. Oversight hearings today rely on sharp, layered questioning designed to expose patterns, and Mogotsi finds himself caught in one of those patterns. As commissioners press him on the evolution of his statements, the technology in front of them displays timestamps, transcripts, and earlier interviews in stark contrast. The process becomes almost forensic. Mogotsi tries to adjust his answers as the panel cross-references every shift. The more he tries to align his versions, the clearer the misalignment becomes. The hearing hits a turning point when a commissioner repeats a question Mogotsi has already answered twice, this time with unmistakable firmness. The wording is identical, yet the tone carries an entirely different weight. Mogotsi inhales sharply, aware that the repetition isn't accidental, it's strategic. His third answer drifts away from the first two, creating another visible crack in his testimony. The panel members don't argue, they simply observe, letting the silence do the heavy lifting. The shift in power becomes obvious as the room settles into a quieter, heavier rhythm. Imagine the moment a witness hears their own earlier statement read back to them, word for word, line by line. Mogotsi sits straighter as the commissioner recites a passage he had delivered with confidence weeks ago. The contrast to his current explanation is stark. Each sentence places him deeper into a corner he didn't seem prepared for. The reading continues without interruption, building a rhythm that feels almost judicial. By the time the commissioner finishes, the tension has solidified into something the room can practically feel. There's an intensity that emerges when a witness tries to minimize a detail the panel believes is central. Mogotsi labels one discrepancy a small slip, but the commissioners don't treat it that way. Their expressions sharpen as they cross-check documentation that enlarges the importance of what he dismissed. The more he downplays it, the more attention it receives. Suddenly, what he tried to frame as minor becomes the anchor point for deeper probing. Cameras capture every subtle shift, his breathing, his blinking, his tone tightening. One commissioner places two statements on the record, Mogotsi's original version and the one he offered moments earlier. They read almost like conflicting testimonies from different people. The panel lets the comparison hang in the air, giving everyone in the room time to absorb the clash. Mogotsi's attempt to merge the two creates a tangled explanation that circles itself without landing. The panel waits patiently, listening as the contradictions grow more visible. The clash between the facts quietly draws the hearing into a new level of seriousness. The commissioner leans forward. The room freezes. "This cannot continue," she says, 4 words, calm but cutting. The sentence lands with the force of everything unsaid. Mogotsi tries to respond, but the panel continues, presenting another segment of his earlier testimony that contradicts what he just repeated. The shift is sudden but precise. His body language tightens. He adjusts his chair, glances downward, then tries to rebuild his position with a longer explanation. But the atmosphere has already changed. The hearing now moves with a sharper, colder momentum. Every inquiry eventually reaches the stage where commissioners begin hinting at what the broader consequences might be. Without naming outcomes, they start framing Mogotsi's contradictions within a larger context. The tone becomes less about him alone and more about what his shifting versions mean for the integrity of the entire process. Screens display timelines stretched across several meetings, showcasing how his narrative has evolved. The commissioners speak softly, but their questions suddenly carry more weight, as though each answer might ripple far beyond the hearing room. Anyone familiar with past inquiries would recognize the expression on Mogotsi's face. It mirrors the look many witnesses have worn when the pressure reaches its peak. Commissioners refer to previous hearings where similar inconsistencies appeared, drawing parallels without accusing directly. These comparisons unsettle Mogotsi, who glances toward the documents stacked in front of him, as though searching for a version that fits. The panel calmly reads more excerpts aloud, stitching the past and present together. The room's energy thickens as the narrative threads converge. By the time the questioning reaches this stage, the panel stops circling the edges and begins driving straight into the contradictions. Mogotsi's earlier confidence shows signs of eroding. His responses stretch longer, filled with pauses meant to buy time. Each commissioner takes a turn, layering their questions so tightly that one answer triggers 3 more. The The pace quickens but remains controlled, like a coordinated effort designed to expose the structure of his shifting story. Everyone watches closely as he tries to keep up with the barrage. The room reaches its most charged moment when a commissioner finally speaks with a tone heavier than anything heard earlier. She leans slightly forward and delivers the line that freezes Mogotsi in place. "You do not take us seriously." The words land with a precision that cuts through every explanation offered throughout the hearing. Mogotsi's expression shifts, caught between defending himself and absorbing the rebuke. The air thickens as no one moves, no one interrupts, and no one rescues the moment. The session pauses on that suspended note, the tension lingering long after the words settle.